What's up, y'all? This is the story of how I became confident. So this was me back in college. I had very low self-esteem, felt lost, insecure, unmotivated, depressed, and just anxious all the time, particularly socially anxious. I wouldn't say a word during class. I was so afraid that if I said the wrong thing or I said something stupid that people would judge me or make fun of me, and it was crippling. Over time, I realized that the fears that I had about people judging me was just me judging myself. Ultimately, that's what it came down to. So back in college, I was a graphic design major, but I knew deep down that it wasn't what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. I was kind of just going to college to make my parents proud, you know. Coming from an Asian household, you kind of have to go to college, it's no question. You have to get a degree, and then you have to get a 9-to-5 after you graduate. And I think those thoughts really just made me super depressed and anxious about my life because it felt empty. Like I had 4 different internships in college and I hated them. When I graduated, I got a job designing DVDs for PBS, and after 5 months, I decided to quit because my soul was yearning for something else. And I'm sure many of you guys have experienced soul-sucking jobs. I deep down believe that we weren't meant for that. It's not natural for us to do that, to just deny who we truly are. But before I get into that, I just want to keep telling you my story. I basically spent half of my college years isolating myself in my dorm, binge watching YouTube videos, getting to all sorts of relationships with men or boys who I thought would fulfill that void that I felt deep down of not being passionate about anything, not having any direction in life. Every single day just felt the same. I would just wake up, drag myself to class, along with these relationships that I thought would fulfill my soul. I just got addicted to food, weed, just anything that would quell my constant feeling of anxiety and discomfort about my life. It honestly got to a point where I was just so nihilistic. I started stealing. I started just doing a bunch of sketchy stuff that I'm not proud of. And I hit rock bottom at the age of 19 when I don't want to go into it fully in this video. I would like to talk about it in the future, but I was just doing things that would give me a temporary high and then made me feel incredibly shitty about myself afterwards. And this really got to me. So I just want to say that if you're feeling similarly right now, if you're feeling lost and confused and you don't know what to do with your life, you're feeling like stuck, I honestly think this is a normal feeling that I'm pretty sure we've all been through at least once in our lives. In my opinion, all that this signifies is that our soul wants to expand and we're not allowing it to. And by that, I mean who we truly are isn't what the world sees. We're holding ourselves back. I think this feeling just signifies that you know deep down you have so much potential to be more. It's like, you know, when a caterpillar is inside its cocoon and it's ready to become a butterfly, but you're like cocooning yourself way past the date in which you're supposed to be a butterfly. You know what I mean? Like we're supposed to be evolving constantly and changing and growing and expanding as people. But in my experience, depression would hit and the most discomfort would hit right before it's time to become a butterfly, and I'm not letting myself. And so basically the practices that allowed me to become a more confident person, all they are really are tools to allow yourself, your thoughts, your beliefs to get out of the way of you becoming who you truly are, which is a confident being anyway, where your inner self, thoughts, beliefs, ideas are able to seamlessly express themselves through you and out in the world. Going back to my story, once I was completely fed up with my life, what I was doing, the only direction at that point was for me to go up. It was like a slow and steady, gradual process, but the first step was getting into my body. What does this mean? Movement, exercise, dancing, walking, jogging, whatever physical mode of expression calls to you, do it. It's just getting into your body, because when you're so wrapped up in your thoughts of self-doubt and insecurity and I'm not this, I'm not that enough, I can't, whatever, those thoughts have a grip on you. And in turn, you're living your life based on those delusions that over time, it became your identity. So what I did was I started to just go jogging pretty much every day. I noticed that after I would go for a jog, I'd feel just so light. And I'd feel like my thoughts don't have such a strong grip on me anymore. With jogging, I also began to go to the gym and do yoga, and I also got really into Muay Thai at a certain point in my life, and that really allowed me to have the confidence to just push myself to levels that I never knew was possible. Aside from that, I started eating better. I used to eat ramen and Doritos and hot fries and tuna sandwiches. Like, those are my go-to day-to-day foods. And I slowly and steadily started just introducing more veggies and fruits into my diet. I just started like going to the grocery store, learned how to cook, and I'd make my own meals in school. And not only did I feel better physically, but like mentally too. I had this like mental fog for so long that I didn't realize was there from eating all that junk and sugar and processed stuff. Once I started just eating better, I looked better, I felt better, I thought better thoughts. So the combination of getting into my body, being physically active, and eating better, and I know how like generic that sounds, but it really makes a difference. And I think people find that whole lifestyle shift so daunting. It's because we're so stuck in our own ways. We're creatures of habit, you know, but it's like, what can you do every day that can slowly shift that pattern? Like, if it means eating a banana in the morning instead of like a Pop-Tart, do that for like a week and see how you feel. Eat like oatmeal. Like, oatmeal is the best because it's so nourishing and so filling. It's fun to make and it's freaking delicious once you get it right. Try that out for a week and see how you feel. I can almost guarantee you that you'll feel better. So anyway, the first thing for me was shifting my physical lifestyle. Along with that, I'm gonna go into the emotional. So at the time, you know, I was lost and I didn't feel like I had any passions for anything. I was just kind of like, what do I do with my life? It got so bad that my whole life felt like a blur. I just numbed myself. Luckily, at the same time, I was dating a guy that actually taught me how to play the ukulele. What music did for me, writing it and playing it, was that it allowed me to express my emotions in a way that didn't require me to talk about them. Around the same time, I pirated a copy of Ableton and I learned how to produce my own music. It got to a point where I was like pretty obsessed with it. I would just stay up till 4 in the morning. I finally felt like I found this outlet that made me feel that I was like important, that my perspective, that how I felt, my ideas, like it was all important. And I finally found a way to express them. And this was such a relief. It helped me get out of my depression. To be honest, it helped heal me, you know? So finding a passion, a hobby, and even if you don't have a passion or hobby right now, like, what have you always wanted to try? Pottery, painting, writing, poetry, literally anything that you have a remote interest in. You can go down that path infinitely. do a little bit every day and for the enjoyment of it, you know, and you'll naturally get better. Exploring a new language in which you can express yourself is like such an amazing feeling. So yeah, I was able to process my emotions through making music. The last thing that really helped me become a more confident person is tapping into spiritual practices. And this doesn't have to be anything woo-woo. I literally just started meditating and doing yoga, and I'd say those two things were huge in my shift. Back in college, there was a meditation center down the street from my dorm, so I started going every Sunday. And I came out of that center with this newfound feeling of like clarity. I just felt so present and so clear and so alive after those meditations. So I started doing it on a daily basis. I started off doing maybe 5 to 10 minutes a day of meditation and then increasing that a little bit, 15, 20, even 5 minutes a day makes a difference. There's no right or wrong way to meditate, in my opinion. It's just sitting in quiet, going out for a walk in nature, sit on a rock and stare at a tree for 5 minutes. You can even time it if you want. This allowed me to like see my thoughts clearly as just thoughts and not who I am. Like for example, if I'm meditating and a thought comes up about myself that is more, negative, like during meditation, when those thoughts come up, I was able to just see them as thoughts and not who I truly am. And the more I meditated, the more calm and at peace and present I felt in my daily life. Like that 5, 10, 15 minutes a day bleeds into the rest of your life, into your being. When I was able to feel more at peace with my life and myself, I was able to just be more confident in who I am. And then yoga. Yoga has been one of the most important things in my life that's allowed me to evolve into the person I am today. Along with these other things, of course, but my consistent everyday practice of yoga, I mean, you can look this up. I'm not gonna go super into detail about the benefits, but yoga means the union of body, mind, and spirit. It's hard to describe what that feels like unless you do it. So maybe try it for yourself and see what it does for you. For me, it's just not only a way for me to get into my body, but for me to just get present. It just forces you into the present moment, doing these kind of difficult, challenging poses and postures for, minutes at a time sometimes. It just really gets you out of your head. So like I said earlier, all of these practices and lifestyle shifts have helped me become more confident because they've allowed me to realize that my thoughts and beliefs about myself were holding me back from becoming who I truly am. And who you truly are is already confident, if that makes sense. And confidence doesn't necessarily mean like outgoing. I'm still an introvert at heart, but now my interactions with people aren't anxiety inducing. I can talk to anyone and not feel nervous or anxious. I used to not be able to talk in front of a group of people, get up to present. That was my worst fear ever. But now, I'm playing music in front of crowds and being myself, and it feels so freeing. So some tips and tricks for you guys. Small, simple, but consistent steps. What can you do on a daily basis that can help shift your lifestyle or those eating habits that you have, or replacing that pastry with the delicious bowl of oatmeal every morning? If you want to start reading, for instance, read 2 pages a day. You have time for that. No more excuses. Another thing is making these small tasks enjoyable. That is super important. Once you get momentum going, you're going to start feeling really good. And it's hard to stop that momentum. And yeah, of course, we're going to have days where we fall back into our old habits, but it's going to get harder to fall back into your old self the more consistently you do these tiny shifts in your life. The hardest part for me is thinking about things too much. Thinking about how, when, why, having a reason for everything. No, like do things because you enjoy it and because it makes you happy and because you love it. The most important thing ultimately is feeling good. And I'm not saying feeling good in a way that is fleeting. Feeling good in a sustainable, healthy way. That's good for you, your soul, your body, your mind. Thinking about things leads to paralysis. When you see yourself thinking too much and then you start scrolling, distracting yourself with food, whatever, go for a walk. Go into your backyard, pet a tree, shift it little by little. You don't have to put so much pressure on yourself to change, you know? And I think that's why people find change so daunting, is because we're just thinking about the person we want to become and it feels so far away. But I didn't get here overnight. It took me years. These two pictures are like 6 years apart, but it was all worth it. The journey is always worth it in the end. And the last thing I want to say is trust and have faith in yourself, in the universe, in God, in your friends and family. You're here for a reason. You're put here for a reason, or you chose here for a reason. Whatever you believe, your reason for being is important. Once you start to trust life and yourself, life just starts to unfold in this like beautiful orchestration. The true way that life wants to unfold anyway is for our favor, is for expansion. We have dreams and ambitions for a reason. And I believe we were all meant to live them out.